yesterday. So like, he goes, what have you learned? And I'm like, like nothing. And he goes, so you don't practice? And no, everybody speaks English. He said, well, we here in the South, you can tell everything by the body language. It's like you can't really learn the grammar in the books. You gotta just go.
You had good flights?
The first on the way over to do our flight.
Okay. I literally was like, oh.
So I had to hang out with them on there.
What happened to your comfy chair?
I don't know.
We stole it.
Here and I see one.
Oh, no, it's just not quite 7.
October 29th meeting of the Milltown Borough Council will now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Council President Dixon?
Present.
Councilman Farkas?
Here.
Councilwoman Kerber?
Present.
Councilman Legati?
Here.
Councilwoman Mayer? Here. Councilman Revelinsky?
Here.
Council President Dixon, we have 6 present and the mayor is absent tonight.
Thank you. Will the clerk please read the open public meeting statement?
Let the minutes reflect that adequate notice of the holding of this regular business meeting of the Borough Council was provided by the adoption of a resolution and the posting, filing, and forwarding of a copy of the same to the official borough newspapers, Home News Tribune, and Star Ledger Publishing Companies on October 17, 2018. Public participation in this meeting will be permitted during public hearings and after the agenda of scheduled matters has been completed.
Next, we'll have a moment of silence and salute to the flag. We will dispense with these items and do them in the regular business meeting.
Psych.
Although everybody was ready to go.
Already.
Next is items for discussion. Borough Clerk, read the items for discussion. The first item is
Ariel Hopkins Park and street dedication on November 3rd at 1 p.m. And you have a statement.
and I believe that was put on by the mayor.
Yes.
And on his behalf, the mayor and all council people would like to invite residents and Milltown staff to the unveiling of the new park equipment for rededication to Ariel Hopkins and the dedication of the street to Ariella Street. Ariella was lost too soon, and this dedication is to serve as a small reminder of the joy this little girl brought to her family, friends, and anyone who came in contact with her. I am honored to attend the event that is to be held this Saturday, November 3rd at 1 p.m. I encourage town folks to also come and show their support to Ariella Hopkins' family and take this opportunity to remember Ariella. And this location is on Lawrence and Herbert Street. Be at that intersection, and again, it will be 1 p.m. this coming Saturday, November 3rd. Thank you. Next, Again, on behalf of the mayor, I have a statement regarding volunteer appointments. Volunteer appointment to the boards, committees, agencies will be made at the January reorganization meeting at the Borough. Appointments can only be made to volunteers who have completed the citizenship leadership application and submit the same to the Borough Clerk's office. If you are interested in serving the community on one of the borough's many boards, committees, or agencies, please complete the citizenship leadership application. Applications can be found on the borough website, www.milltownnj.org, and are also available at the Borough Clerk's office. The clerk has also brought some to tonight's meeting if you would like to grab one before you leave. Thank you. Next, miscellaneous engineering items.
Yes, thank you. Two quick items from us. The first is an update on the Public Works facility construction. The contractor is continuing with the wall construction. He's just about completed with the pre-manufactured block walls, and immediately thereafter he will be commencing the construction of the cast-in-place concrete walls. The second item we wanted to report on is we are working on some items that we've been requested to do from special counsel with regard to Ford Avenue. That includes preparing 2 master plan elements, a circulation plan and a utility plan element, and also cost estimates for the demolition work that remains on the site. That's all we have tonight.
Thank you. Is there any other engineering items? That's it?
That's it.
Okay, next is audience comments, and they shall be listed or kept to the 2 items that we spoke about. Are there any audience comments? If not, is there a motion for adjournment?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
We will adjourn and begin our regular meeting. 5 minutes? 5-minute break.
Okay.
Second, he's not ready. Time out.
The October 29th meeting of the Milltown Borough Council will now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Council President Dixon?
Here.
Councilman Farkas?
Here.
Councilwoman Kerber?
Present.
Councilman Legati?
Here.
Councilwoman Mayer?
Here.
Councilman Revelinsky? Here. Council President Dixon, we have 6 present and the mayor is absent.
Thank you. Will the clerk please read the open public meeting statement?
Let the minutes reflect that adequate notice of the holding of this regular business meeting of the Borough Council was provided by the adoption of a resolution and the posting, filing, forwarding of a copy of the same to the official Borough newspapers, Home News Tribune, and Star Ledger Publishing Companies on October 17, 2018. Public participation in this meeting will be permitted during public hearings and after the agenda of scheduled matters has been completed.
Thank you. Now stand for a moment of silence and a salute of the flag. On the agenda, we have the public hearing of ordinances. The ordinances were introduced by council and advertised according to law. If any member of the public wishes to discuss the ordinance, they may do so after the reading. The public hearing may only be on the ordinance at hand. Will the clerk please read ordinance 181465 by title?
Ordinance providing for various improvements in and by the Borough of Milltown, County of Middlesex, New Jersey, and appropriating $125,000, therefore, from the Reserve for Electric System Capital Improvements.
Okay, now open the public hearing on the ordinance. Seeing none, ask the clerk to call the roll.
Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped this part for you to ask what they want to do for motion second.
Okay. Hear a motion to accept?
I make a motion that, go ahead, Rich.
No, you go.
I'll second. Okay. Well, I have to read mine. You know it by heart. I make a motion that ordinance 181465 be adopted on second and final reading and that it published according to law.
I'll second.
Hear a second. Seconded by Councilman Revelinsky. All in favor? Oh, you take the roll call.
Okay, roll. Council President Dixon?
Yes.
Councilman Farkas?
Aye.
Councilwoman Kerber?
Aye.
Councilman Legati?
Aye.
Councilwoman Mayer?
Aye.
Councilman Revelinsky?
Aye.
Council President Dixon, we have 6 ayes.
Okay. Next ordinance is 181466. Clerk, read it.
Ordinance providing for various improvements in and by the Borough of Milltown in the County of Middlesex, New Jersey, and appropriating $40,000 therefore from water and sewer utility capital fund balance and the electric utility capital fund balance.
Open it now to the public. Anybody have anything to say on this ordinance? Seeing none. Here for a motion to accept?
I move that this ordinance be adopted.
Go ahead.
Make
On second and final.
on second and final reading and published according to law.
I second.
Motion made and seconded. All, will you please call the roll?
Council President Dixon?
Aye.
Councilman Farkas?
Aye.
Councilwoman Kerber?
Aye.
Councilman Legati?
Aye.
Councilwoman Mayer?
Aye.
Councilman Revelinsky?
Aye.
Council President Dixon, we have 6 ayes.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is comments from the audience on resolutions or bills and claims. If any member of the public wishes to speak on the resolutions listed on the bill list, please step forward and say your name and address for the record. These comments are limited to the resolutions and bills and claims. Seeing none, move on. We'll now go on to the bills and claims. Will the clerk please read Bill Resolution 18271?
Authorizing the payment of bills, claims, and statements against the Borough of Milltown in the total amount of $1,502,117.95.
Any further reading of this resolution? What is your pleasure?
I move that this resolution be adopted.
I second.
Motion been made by Councilman Revelinsky and seconded by Councilman Kerber that this resolution be adopted. Is there any discussion? Being done, will the clerk please call the roll?
Council President Dixon?
Aye.
Councilman Farkas?
Aye.
Councilwoman Kerber?
Aye.
Councilman Legati?
Aye.
Councilwoman Mayer?
Aye.
Councilman Revelinsky?
Aye.
Council President Dixon, we have 6 ayes.
Thank you. Next, we have reports of standing committees and introduction of resolutions. First one's me. I believe Department of Finance Administration.
We do the consent first,
do
though.
the consent resolution.
What am I doing?
Consent first.
Oh, that one first, I'm sorry. Consent agenda. Okay. Consent resolution has been prepared to cover the resolutions listed on the agenda. If any member of the council wants any resolution acted upon individually, please give me the resolution number, and it will be pulled from the consent resolution.
Yes, 18277, please.
277. Anyone else? Okay, with the exception of 18277, will the clerk please read the consent resolution which covers the resolutions listed on the agenda with the exception of 18277?
Whereas pursuant to the rules of council, the council may establish a consent agenda for any regular or special meeting, and whereas the Borough Clerk has posted a consent agenda for this meeting. Now therefore be it resolved by the Mayor and Borough Council of the Borough of Milltown, County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey, that the consent agenda previously prepared by the Borough Clerk be approved without the necessity of having individual resolutions read by the Borough Clerk.
Is there a motion to accept?
I make a motion that this resolution be adopted.
Second.
Seconded. Motion made by Councilman Legati, seconded by Councilman Revelinsky. All in favor? Well,
No.
individual roll.
Council President Dixon?
Aye.
Councilman Farkas?
Aye.
Councilwoman Kerber?
Aye.
Councilman Legati?
Aye.
Councilwoman Mayer?
Aye.
Councilman Revelinsky?
Aye.
Council President Dixon, we have 6 ayes.
Thank you. Will Borough Clerk please read 18277?
A resolution of the Borough Council of the Borough of Milltown, policies and procedures regarding posting and distribution of information on municipal-owned, operated, or maintained spaces, also known as the posting policy.
Hear a motion to accept?
Move that this resolution be adopted.
I second.
Motion made by Councilman Revelinsky, seconded by Councilman Kerber. Any questions?
Yes, I had a question. In the resolutions, it says, provided municipality, the municipal website, bulletin boards, and other posting areas are not intended to be an open public forum. What are those other posting areas?
That could serve as any portion of that, whether that be a social media site or, again, the other posting areas could be considered the major signs that go, the street signs. It's really just a catch-all to make sure that it's addressed, that anything that's borough-owned, operated, or maintained is considered a borough public place, posting.
The hallway out here for anyone putting out bulletins and things like that.
Right, and that's why we have the bulletin board spaces, so that way it's not on, that's all addressed in the policy, so that it's just clear where we post, when we post, and what is appropriate to post and who makes those determinations.
And that would also include like the sign that is on the corner of Main.
Right, and that's when it's, the resolution says in all other, that's the catch-all of things that don't necessarily have a clear definition or have, may come up that we see fit, that you find a new space, but it would still be something that we monitor for what we're posting. Not quite as specific as website, social media, legal bulletin board.
But just to clarify, we're not going to have any social media after the new website goes up, correct?
So the policy actually addresses social media. The only form of social media that we're continuing with is going to be the live streaming in YouTube or the cable TV channel. Any other type of social media, which includes like Facebook, Twitter, I don't think we're really using Instagram or anything of those. Those will actually cease to exist as borough owned and operated. I'm sorry?
Just so you know, we keep the commenting off also for YouTube when it's live. Because you said you guys didn't want that live commenting. Get that off, right?
We didn't even address comments in the YouTube section. It was,
Okay, I thought that's what you meant by social media, to keep the commenting off.
right, it's better to keep the comment things off. The posting policy is more addressing how we what we're putting out there. One of the reasons we're discontinuing social media is so that way comments actually come to the borough through the borough website, and that way we have a better way to maintain them.
So should we make an amendment to the resolution regarding the YouTube comments and being off just to finalize that?
We don't, it's in the policy, which is also in front of you, we didn't address comments because we don't, again, you can turn them off on a social media platform, but we didn't address that in the policy. Because the other social media programs don't have it, and I don't know if you can, I think you can close off the comments during live on YouTube, but I think you have to maintain them on the regular post, don't you? Still or no?
You can turn on comments totally on next week
Okay.
if you want to.
So we can always add that to the policy.
So what's the difference between what we have now and this one?
We currently don't have an actual policy. We have certain statements that are codified in our ordinance that are specific to the Cable TV Committee and to the website. However, that doesn't extend to our social media policy. This policy also addresses how we handle users and individuals who use social media. If anybody's using social media, that's fine. However, as soon as they start associating themselves with the borough, again, they need to be subject to the code of conduct of the borough employees, and that's what we're making clear. That it makes a clear separation between private use and public use, how you associate yourself in that way.
And just so the public is aware, I'm assuming we had a little bit of a conversation. Any website will cease to exist as well, and everything will be housed under the new Milltown website?
Our new website has all of our sites, yeah, we're to have all of our agencies and departments in it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Just so if everybody's looking for the Milltown Police Department, it's going to be housed under the Milltown
Right,
website.
Milltown PBA, which is separate, they are still able to maintain their own because that's they're technically a separated 501c3. However, the police department themselves, their programs, their news flashes, all of that will be on the new website.
Perfect, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Just two more questions. So
Yep.
I just want to understand something. Did you say that the borough employees on their private Facebook accounts or whatever platform they're on will be held to the standard of this policy?
If they associate themselves as a member of the borough. If they're representing themselves as a borough employee, then yes, they're held to the same. So if I utilize my personal Facebook, and I'm just Joe Schmuck, Gabriella Simone, whatever, in the public, it's not to be held against me. However, if I post, I'm Gabriella Simone, Borough Clerk of the Borough of Milltown, and now I am held accountable because now I've just associated myself as the agency. And in that context, I'm acting on behalf of or putting out the image as if I'm acting on behalf of the agency when I'm not. So that's what it does. It makes it clear. It's asking to separate. If you if you have a private social media account, that's fine and it can stay private. However, as soon as you start putting out the perception that you are acting as a public employee or official, you can then be subject to the code of conduct, which again is outlined in there about what we talk about, what's appropriate, not appropriate.
Okay. My last question is, this policy, was this reviewed by all the departments in here?
We've discussed this at length in department head meetings about that social media would be discontinued and what that means, and in essence of how our operations would work with a new website on that it's always going to see second eyes, whether it's the business administrator or their designee, that nothing just goes straight forward. That's a big portion of the posting policy. The rest of it also addresses bulletin boards, saying that people can't just post on the bulletin boards, it has to go to the department head, business administrator or such and such that's responsible for that. So that way there's a clear responsibility for when things are posted, who we go to for them. So it has been discussed with all departments about where we're going with this, yes.
But that's department heads in a department head meeting. There's people that are on here that are not in the department heads. So I just think that if there's a quite extensive list of agencies and departments, that everyone had a chance to review this and provide feedback before we pass something like this. This is pretty extensive.
I did list the agency boards and committees, however, none of them have currently social media approved social media uses, so there's no sites on them. And the new website, we're putting up pages for them that currently have meeting information and the like, and all of their posts would go through the business administrator or their designee. So any information that goes on the site would then be subject to that. But again, that posting policy also says no social media. So their modes of contact in regards to this would be most likely the website, and in which case that would still go through the business administrator or designee. There would be no changes to a social media site, again, because they're not sanctioned to have them at this time anyway.
Okay, and my recollection is this kind of came before the council a few years ago,
It did 2 years ago.
and it was not approved 2 years ago, correct?
We ceased discussions because there was a belief that there wasn't a need for the regulation.
But you feel there's a need for the regulation now?
I felt that there was a need for the regulation then. I continue to think that. I also think that when you look at the current cases and things like that that are coming through, Oprah and records retention are huge matters, and it's one of the biggest reasons that I've been pushing for this as it pertains to social media. I think it's unfeasible to archive records in the manner that records retention law requires for a social media account, and we're not archiving it in the proper way, which puts us in a not great position if ever somebody wanted something that was on one of those. This also allows for us to have controls and policies in place to say if something is inappropriate, we actually have a guideline that says this is why it's inappropriate, and we've adopted this as our general rules, which right now we don't have those. So while we may believe something's obscene, there's nothing that says that is obscene, other than something being actually flat out illegal. So I think this actually makes it a lot clearer for council, for employees, and for our residents to say this is what is not going to occur within our policy and procedure. And truly, I just believe policy and procedure is the safest bet to go anyway, since it makes everything regulated and clear.
Okay, but didn't I hear that we're not going to have any social media?
Again, the only social media that will occur is YouTube, but you will have the website. But even with the website, making sure that you have clear definitions of what is allowed and isn't, and what's appropriate and not appropriate, is still helpful. And also those guidelines, again, one of the reasons we have them delineated that way is because it also goes into authorized users and private use of account. So if we say it's inappropriate for you to utilize and you're representing yourself as the Borough of Milltown on a private Facebook page and then posting it out there under your title, you are still subject to those same regulations, and having them defined is what makes it clear. So even though we're not utilizing social media, we still have social media aspects where a lot of our, whether it's council, whether it's employees, whether it's members of our volunteer agencies, it's of those things. If you're representing yourself as a borough, you are subject to that. The same way, it's the same idea of a planning board member can't post a decision prior to a meeting if they represent themselves as a planning board member. That's where it touches on those things.
Okay. And I guess my last question is, who's going to determine what's appropriate and what's not?
That's why the posting policy is pretty stringent on, well, language to be used and the types of things that we're utilizing. And again, on every level, it's either the business administrator or the designee, or in the cases of bulletin boards, the department heads. And emergency notifications under Nixle are the chief of police, because he is the chief of police and he determines whether it's an emergency, which is standard for what we're operating under now.
Okay, thank you.
Section 8, Media Committee. The Borough Administrator will serve as the authority on practices regarding the posting policy. Borough Administrator may seek counsel and advisement with the Media Committee. This Media Committee shall be comprised of the Borough Administrator, one council liaison, and the Borough Attorney. So I think this is actually a good step forward. We've got several departments that are currently using Facebook for posting and notifying things as a service to the public, which is good. But with the new website, we want to make sure that we have a one source and it's controlled and we're not misrepresenting the borough or our intentions through other sources. So
on the new webpage, we also do have it's called a widget that offers the ability to share. So somebody can go on our website and share to a social media platform. However, that no longer becomes a borough record. So it still allows for the interaction and sharing of information outside of our site, but it becomes non-borough regulated, which means that we're not responsible for maintaining and archiving the comments, the shares, the feed of it. So it still gives access with our limitations.
Did we update our security?
I'm sorry?
Did we update security? If we're gonna have the ability to share it, people are gonna be able to get into the
No.
platform somewhere, right?
No. It's an external feature. So it's basically the same way that if you were on a newspaper site and you want to share the article, you're basically just copying a link that shows that area.
Okay.
It's not a sign-in feature where they can
Okay.
access and pull away. It's truly just an external linking to.
Okay, thank you.
My only question is then, there are references to social networking activities in this. So if we're not having any social networking, why are we addressing it in this resolution?
Again, part of the reason we're addressing the social networking is because of the private use of employees and elected officials. So if we set a standard for what's an appropriate use of social media, again, it's not sanctioned as us to have a recreation Facebook page. However, if I, as the borough, I'm using myself as an example tonight, I can't go and comment and say, as the borough clerk, this is my determination about this. If I do, then I'm subject to the rules of this policy, which means that if I state something that is untrue, malicious, again, anything that's listed in there, this is how you would be able to sanction me and hold me accountable for what I'm doing, because I am representing the borough in a position that's acceptable.
And who's policing that?
Well, if somebody is posting like that on the website, we would have to be reported. It would have to be reported. If it is, should be reported to the business administrator.
No, not the website, but who's policing the
Social media?
Yeah.
Truly, it would be residents or council, anybody who's on those platforms that sees the activity. It's happened before where we've gotten, I know in my office, I've gotten comments about what's being said online. And I don't know if Randy has that same experience, but if there's misuse of a private Facebook page or representation of the borough, we would hope that it would be reported to the business administrator. Again, and that's where if it's a clear issue, the business administrator would be able to handle it. If there's something that's possibly in question, that's where the media committee would come into play as a review to see if it is actually a sanctionable offense. But it would have to be done on reporting. There's no way for us to find out what everyone's doing on social media and find every comment or things like that. It would have to be something that was actually reported to us. However, if people are representing themselves as an agency member and it's unacceptable behavior, people are very quick to find us and give us that information.
And the comment section of the new website, because I ask this because people are desperate for information, and there are Facebook pages. There's one in particular where people share a lot of information, and I know Rich and I think even maybe Dorianne and Nick have gone on to answer people's questions. So on the new website, if there's a big issue, is there a place for people to comment about that?
There's no commenting on the new page. What there is there's reports, report of concern and things like that. And in response to that, we can always put out news flashes or updates on the homepage or new information as it's necessary. But there wouldn't be streaming comments like you would see on social media.
Okay. Because as the council person, I sometimes go on and answer because people don't want to wait until another month till the next meeting.
Right.
Or you don't know who you're emailing or who you're getting an answer from. So it's a helpful way to interact with the public.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
I wouldn't look too deeply into it. I think it's more of an ethical guideline.
No, but
for posting even things personally, is answering a question that someone may have and say it was discussed at a council meeting, or the best person to call would be the clerk. Provides enough information, you're not going to get in hot water. If you say, Gabriella, by the way, I can't stand her because she's wearing glasses, now you're pushing that ethical, and I just say because you're wearing glasses tonight.
I figured
you're pushing that ethical, moral boundary. So I think we can still interact with the public.
I would have no problem, doing that, or being careful with that. But I just want to make sure that we have as much transparency and open dialogue with the public as possible.
Again, the policy is not stopping somebody from utilizing a personal account. It's also not stopping you from identifying yourself as a member of an elected official or as a member of the staff or as a volunteer member. What it is doing is it's saying that if you do represent yourself that way, that you are held to a specific type of conduct, that you cannot say something within these guidelines that would potentially be an issue. And that could be something along the lines of something that's private or confidential or malicious or of any type of harassing. I mean, I feel like they're pretty basic guidelines,
Okay.
but it's very clear so that way if there is an issue, we can address it and we have a reason to do so. Without this policy, we have no basis for that kind of communication.
Okay, thank you.
Will the old site, when it becomes old and closed, will that be archived under Government Records Council guidelines?
We are working on that. However, unfortunately, our past site failed, but we do have most of the documents that were posted, so we do have them for archival records, as it's stated here.
I guess that just brings up a question that everybody's been asking. When is the new website going to be live?
We're hoping to be live by next week. We've run into some issues with the old site not being able to be republished, so we are looking at before next week having a launch and getting up and running.
And the old site will be down, the old site's going to be down forever?
Forever. The old site we no longer have.
Critical failure.
There was unfortunately a critical failure. So there was a number of issues that occurred, which is why it was down. In trying to remedy them, they continued to fail just continued to compound on itself of issues. So in speaking to Randy and Troy, we had made the determination to cease efforts to fix what was very, very broken and move forward to try to push the launch of the new site. Unfortunately, some of the issues from the old site limited us in moving forward on the new site, but we think that we remedied them over the weekend and we'll be able to launch soon.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any other discussion? No further discussion. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Council President Dixon.
Aye.
Councilman Farkas.
Aye.
Councilwoman Kerber.
Aye.
Councilman Legati.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mayer.
Aye.
Councilman Revelinsky.
Aye.
Council President Dixon, we have 6 ayes.
Thank you. Now we'll go on to the department reports. The first one being the Department of Finance, Administration and Planning, chaired by myself. Department of Code Enforcement is pleased to report that a number of lingering maintenance code issues are finally well on their way to final disposition. The first, if not one of the most important ones of this, is number 39 Pershing Avenue. It is finally being demolished and demolishing the building, which was severely damaged nearly 2 years ago by fire. There is a demolition meeting being scheduled for the owners of the Ford Avenue complex in an effort to accelerate the completion of the demolition that has already begun there. Office of Emergency Management is pleased to inform the public that a grant has been awarded to the borough for the installation of emergency generators for the new DPW firehouse project. And it was made official by the state last week. The borough was awarded a total of $162,000 for this project. And a letter has been sent to the borough and has been received and documented that this money is now dedicated to the borough for generators for this project. And that is my report. And I thank you for doing it. Department of Public Safety is next, chaired by Councilman Nicholas Legati.
Thank you, Council President. Very short report for me tonight. The Milltown Alliance took part in the Trunk or Treat on Sunday. It was a very nice event. Got to love all those little kids in their costumes. Milltown Alliance had a lot of candy and we ran out. We had to borrow some from the Recreation Department, so thank you to the Recreation Department. Also, just a heads up for something that's happening in November. I will get the exact dates, but we're going to be doing our Sticker Shock program where we enter into the 2 local Milltown liquor stores, some of our JK, and now we're going to include some of our high school students to participate in stickering some of the beverages by the case. Both liquor stores have been nice enough to allow us in, and this is, I think, the second or third year we're going to be doing it. But that concludes my report.
Thank you. Next is Department of Utilities, chaired by Councilman Richard Revelinsky.
Thanks, Council President. Short report for this evening. We're moving forward with making all the meters in town for water remote reads. These are going to be the ones that are currently outside your house. Most residents have them. There's about 300 in the town that don't, that require us to enter the home to get a manual read, otherwise they're estimated. So that'll actually facilitate future improvements to the system for the meters if we were to go to a radio read system centralized from the borough or a drive-by system. Water main breaks, as you may have received the Nixle, there was a water main break on Highland Avenue this past weekend. It took quite some time to repair. It should serve as a warning to everyone that with the cold weather coming, we may have breaks. So if you see water bubbling up out of the ground anywhere as you're driving around or walking around town, please notify the utility department, or because that's considered an emergency, you can also call the borough and notify the police department as well. Hydrant flushing is still going on, so some residents have expressed that they've witnessed some brown water. Please keep in mind that as long as hydrant flushing is continuing, you may experience some brown water as we are basically scouring the brown from inside of the pipes. This is done routinely throughout the state twice a year. It seems to be going a little bit faster this time around because of the extent to which we flushed in the spring. We'll send out a Nixle once that's complete so you're aware, but again, just run your water for a few seconds in the morning, make sure it's clean before you go jumping in the shower. Right before the last meeting, we did discuss several things with our borough engineer in regards to next year, as well as the force main planning. As you know, it was built in the 1920s or earlier in some portions, so we are looking for the most economically advantageous way to replace that. I don't think it's going to be happening anytime soon, but it is in the works for design so we can start getting everything in order. And we've also been discussing operations for next year, what to do to better improve our utility department, and evaluating priority projects for 2019. So with that, Mr. Council President, that concludes my report.
Thank you. Next is Department of Public Works and Recycling, chaired by Councilwoman Dorian Herbert.
Thank you, Council President. Along with all regularly scheduled curbside collections, the Public Works Department has the following report. The soccer field at Albert Avenue was painted for the fall soccer program and Joyce Kilmer school usage. A right-of-way at Janet Court was cleared of a fallen branch and low-hanging debris, as well as vegetation. Mill Pond Park was prepped for the Haunted Riverwalk by removing all low-hanging branches, downed branches near the path, the grass cut, the path was blown clean of any and all debris. Barricades, cones, signs have been also provided for this event. No parking signs were installed in various locations near school crosswalks as per the police department. A yellow curb was painted on John Street and a new no parking sign was installed as per police. Crosswalk line painting has taken place at various locations where road repair has been done. Road repair has taken place on Pardon Avenue. New portable heaters have been placed inside the Main Street Firehouse basement to help ward off frozen pipes this winter. The Herbert Avenue Park has had new playground equipment installed, new safety material put down, and new chains on the swings. The Public Works Supervisor and one employee attended the annual Association of New Jersey Recyclers Symposium. Discussions included current issues with non-compliance at curbside recycling, reinforcing what is and is not permitted to be recycled, and recycling education, as well as awareness. The county shredding event hosted by Milltown was held on Saturday, October 13, was a huge success. This event was attended by 574 county residents, 32% of which were Milltown residents. 20,160 pounds of paper was collected at this event. Pothole and street sweeping is ongoing. Leaf bags are still available Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 3, and Saturday from 8 to noon. Please check Channel 15 for updates and watch for the new webpage for DPW in the future. In addition, I received an email. Middlesex County will have a booth for the first time at the New Jersey League of Municipalities. The programs that they're going to be providing at this event is Destination 2040. I've mentioned this, that the Middlesex County is doing a master plan. It's going to be a comprehensive process focused on 2040. It's to define countywide goals for the housing, economic development, jobs, transportation, energy, technology, art, and much more. To build this plan, we are collaborating across all county departments, municipalities, and partners. There's also a Skill Up Middlesex. County residents can now enhance their skills and work towards obtaining industry-recognized credentials by accessing over 4,500 online courses, which are free training service by SkillPath. And this SkillPath, I've attended a number of them in the past, is the Fortune 500 companies that use the service. There also will be a Middlesex County Services Locator information, helps connect our constituents to available resources, whether it be food, substance abuse support, job training, veteran services, housing, and more. This will provide professional staff with tools for making referrals and tracking services they suggest to constituents. Also, they'll be doing a dynamic and focused marketing plan to drive attention to the county programs and business opportunities, driving value to our residents, visitors, business, and municipalities. On October 11th, we had our Complete Streets meeting, which included the United Way. Lieutenant Johnson was there, Mike Kane from the Public Works, Bruce McCracken from the Middlesex County Planning, Bonnie Sterling, Stephanie Brown, Kaylin and James from the Voorhees Transportation Center, NJTPA, and of course Deanna from CME. We all met, we went out to both sites. The first site was Ford and Main Street. We had our discussions, whether it's people turning on left, out of the street, right, and what we can expect in the coming weeks is a design work for those two areas, and the second area, of course, is Church and Main Street. Also, I just received this information. I'm not sure if we'll be working on this, but it could be a good discussion for the committee. South River has brought back their curb and sidewalk program, knowing that we are going to work on the trees now that we've passed the ordinance for the funding for this. There is a little delay. There was a couple of questions by a couple of vendors, so next week is the new bid date to be opened for November 8th, I believe, right? So we'll be going forward with this. It's going to be a number of trees. Now, some of them affects the sidewalks minimally, some of them much worse. So it might be a consideration for the committee to review what South River has done and how it works. Basically what they do is they prepare an RFP, go out to companies so that it'll be more cost effective for the residents to work and repair those, especially since we are taking a lot of trees down. It might be a lot of sidewalks we see that need to be done. Also, the American Water Works Association has approved their first affordability policy statement. Now, this is in regards to water affordability, increasing rates and so forth throughout the state. It's not just one town, it's throughout the state and throughout some of the nation as well. They have posted Portland, Oregon. I don't know if the utility committee wants to review what they've done. They've revised it for 2018, so it's not just the very low income of households. They enhanced the program. I think the committee could review this and see what we can do for some of our seniors and those who may, might need assistance. We have to review everything, of course, as well as the financial end of it that we've, that's the reason why we raised the rates to cover that shortfall. But maybe we can work in a program for some of the other people. There's also, one more thing. There was Americans Water Infrastructure Act of 2008, and Jersey Water Works is a state committee that I'm on, and it gave just some highlights. It's allowing us to increase state revolving fund monies from $1 billion to $1.95 billion in 2021. It reauthorizes the Water Infrastructure Finance and Innovation Act. That's the WIFIA loan program. Increases the amount of SRF funds to be sent to economically disadvantaged communities and increases the repayment period by 10 years. Creates a grant program for lead-free school drinking water fountains, directs EPA to inventory lead service lines, directs EPA to create a stormwater infrastructure funding task force, changing requirements for consumer confidence reports relating to frequency. So currently, that report we do once a year. I didn't read on this, but I guess we'll be reviewing it as a committee. But I don't know if the frequency has increased, and also readability. Provides assistance to water utilities to improve resiliency from weather and cyber-related threats, and also additional grant program for water workforce development. And that concludes my reports.
Thank you. Next, we have the Department of Environmental Health and Social Services, here chaired by Councilwoman Trina Mayer.
Thank you, Council President. I have nothing to report. I'll have a full report for the Environmental Commission meeting at the next meeting.
Thank you. Next is the Department of Recreation, chaired by Councilman Randy Farkas.
Thank you. Along with the daily operations of the Rec and SAC departments, we have the following. SAC reminders. This is a courtesy reminder that all past due fees from last school year SAC, summer SAC, and current school year SAC must be paid in full by December 15th, or your child care will be interrupted. SAC does not have staff to bill monthly or send out constant reminders. Making sure your SAC account is current is the parent's responsibility. Please be on time with your payments. We are still accepting employment applications for adult SAC aides and a SAC site manager. If you know of someone that is looking for a part-time job and loves children, this is a great job for you. Please go online or pick up an application at Borough Hall. The hours are 5 days, approximately 3 to 4.5 hours per day. Recreation information. Youth basketball registration is ongoing. The deadline for registration is November 30th. There will be a 5th to 8th grade players assessment on December 6th. We will update parents via email through registration forms. Please be sure to print your information clearly and neatly so that there is no interruption in communication. We will be set to start in January. Milltown annual Christmas tree lighting will be held Friday, December 7th at 6 p.m. here at Borough Hall. There will be free face painting, the JK Band, light refreshments, and a visit from Santa by the Milltown Fire Department. Trips and events. Recreation is offering trips to the following. Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, Thursday, November 22nd. Radio City Music Hall Christmas Spectacular, November 24th. We inadvertently missed adding this trip to the constant contact that was sent out last week. However, we have resent it. Bryant Park Winter Village, Saturday, December 8th. Day in the city to sightsee, eat, and shop, $30 per person. Christmas is in the air at the Hunterdon Hills Playhouse, Thursday, December 20th. The Lion King on Broadway, Sunday, January 20th. Frozen on Broadway, Sunday, February 17th. Please note all trip prices include round-trip bus transportation from Milltown Borough. If you are interested, please contact the Recreation Department. The deadline for all trips is November 2nd. These trips must be paid for in advance, and we need an early deadline so that the vendors can hold our seats. The Recreation Committee will not meet in November due to the holiday. The next meeting will be on Wednesday, December 19th at 7 p.m. Additionally, I'd like to thank the Recreation Department and Milltown PTA for a great trunk or treat. Hundreds attended, and I saw a lot of smiles with all the candy that was distributed. I'd also like to thank the Joyce Kilmer class of 2019 for another great Haunted River Walk. Due to weather, the class lost one night, but the event was still well attended on the 2 nights performances went on. And as always, congratulations to the students and parents for a job well done. Finally, I'd like to recognize the Spotswood varsity cheerleaders as they won the Red Division cheer title at the GMC Championships yesterday. Congratulations to the team and coaches. That concludes the recreation report.
Thank you. Next, we move into old business. Does any member of the council have any old business to bring before the council?
Yes, Council President. I'm not sure if this is old business or not, but I'm going to ask the question anyway. At the last meeting, I asked about the BA CFO position, and I was wondering if there was any update on that.
Yes, there is, and, Katie, do you want to answer that? We were at a meeting this evening. Right?
Sure. Yeah, we, the Finance Committee met right before this meeting, and we met with Mr. Barr, and his recommendation was that we have a full-time BA, and then move a CFO, an employee into a full-time CFO position.
So to answer your question, there is movement, we're discussing it, and I think, hopefully, maybe even by next meeting or December's meeting, we're going to have paperwork out.
I'm sorry, but did you say a full-time CFO or a
Well,
part-time?
I just want to caution on discussions with
Right.
that in open session,
Oh,
because it's
true.
about personnel.
Sorry, yes, my mistake. But to have someone in the finance, somebody take the CFO role, but have a full-time BA.
So 2 full-time positions.
Right, Randy? More or less?
That's something to discuss again.
It's, currently, there is a full-time position already being occupied. So it
Okay.
wouldn't really constitute two new full-time positions.
Okay, so can I ask a direct question then? In your opinion, doing this for however long you're doing it, does the Borough of Milltown need a full-time CFO?
I believe under the right circumstances, you might be able to get away with 2.5 people in that office.
Without answering a personnel issue.
Okay,
So we will start looking for a full-time BA very shortly.
Gabriella, do we need to get anything on the books for that or anything to change? Because our BA is
We-
currently,
We've
A
discussed
part,
that.
yeah,
and
that's
that
an ordinance
will be
change.
brought up before the next
Yeah.
meeting.
We do have to look at the ordinance just to make sure that our ordinances do fit for that position.
okay, thank you very much.
Is there any other old business?
Yes, I just have a question. I know in several of the recreation subcommittee meetings, we talked about trying to streamline and Gabriella, this one's kind of for you.
I'm listening.
We've talked about trying to streamline the registration with online forms that can import the data entered by residents, since most of the people signing up for recreation programs are for children. They've had a problem in the past trying to read some of the not very neat handwriting of people and calling and confirming it's their proper email so the notifications get out. Does the new website have in there the ability for SAC billing, for forms, for notifications, for all that stuff to be done via the website as opposed to paper forms, including payment?
Billing, no, and that's something that we've discussed at length. Billing is a company you have to pay to, even our utility and tax payments, that's done through a company. That's not something that you can build into the website. You actually need a payment processing company to do that. The website does have the ability for forms. Every form that was provided to me for uploading to the site was made into a PDF fillable, so it can be typed on. All of the department heads and certain staff members came in for extensive training with the website, and they were introduced to modules, one of which is the Form Center, which is a fillable form that people can type into and submit directly through the website, and it creates a CSV report for us on the back end. Each department would be responsible for creating those on their own, but those forms are really solely to be used for informational transition. So citizen leadership is one of them. There's no exchange of private or payment information. It's specific, here's my contact information and this is what I'd like to sign up for, similar to an OPA request. Again, not a payment processing, as long as, if they're getting copies, they're coming to the municipality anyway, and then they would be notified of that. But that's the type of forms that are on the site. If the department gave us a form, I know the clerk's office, we have a number of them, so, you know, there are fillable forms for garage sale permit on the clerk's site. You can't get a garage sale permit from the website, but at least you have the information, so if you'd like to put it in Dropbox, you can type out the form and leave it so that after business hours we can, if you're not available to come to the office, we can process it for you. Same with animal registration. Each department, if they submitted forms, I created fillable forms for them. But again, we wouldn't be able to take a process payment.
And what would it take for us to be able to take process payment?
They
for
would have to
programs?
either find a company that handles it or go out to bid for what they're looking for. It's not a function of, again,
Understood.
you're looking at an
Third
additional
party.
company to handle
Right.
that.
Okay, I just wasn't sure if we could use one similar to what we already have for the utility billings, that we could process payments as well with using that same company and extend their ability to recreation as well.
They do have the capabilities of doing that, and it'll be basically a link on our website going to the payment screen of a different website. So, but they do offer various modules to pay various bills throughout the municipality, not just utility and tax.
Right, okay.
Would there be charges involved with that, in addition to whatever your payment is?
Correct. There would be. I would say minimal charges by the company. However, you'd have to then deal
Bank fees.
with ACH and credit card fees.
So that leads me to a question. What is is there a big difference between the credit card fees and the way we have it now with it's just the checking online?
So,
Yeah.
Is it really a big difference?
Credit card fees are usually in the area between 2.5% and 3.5% of the payment, where an ACH is just a flat fee, anywhere between 80 cents to $1.05.
So we'd be able to put something like a caveat on there that, you know, paying via credit card or ACH, you know, there's an additional fee of $1.50 if that's what it equates to, the 2.5% or 3.5%.
And it's built right into the language within that website.
Right.
Do other towns use credit card payments?
Sure.
Because I notice like when with a lot of our utility payments, it's the check thing, and we have a lot of discussion about the late fees. I mean, every other bill that we pay, you can pay by credit card, or you can do a recurring payment, or, you know, set it up somehow. But the fact that you actually have to physically go in, put your, you know, routing number and your check number to pay online, is not like every other payment where you don't even have to think about it. It comes straight off. You can put your credit card number in and it gets charged every month, you know.
That's a philosophy and policy decision that each governing body would make. And I can tell you some philosophies, there's hesitation, if you will, to go into somebody's account and take the money out as a direct debit that you would set up as a customer, but it would give us the information to go in and debit your account for that billing. Some governing bodies just don't want to do that. Many governing bodies are okay with that. So it's really a policy decision within yourselves of how you want to set that up and move forward. I have talked to the tax collector and utility collector about credit card payments in addition to ACH, and we are looking at exploring some ideas for the 2019 year.
Great, thank you.
Is there any other old business?
Oh, I have one thing. We talked the last meeting about starting a strategic planning kickoff, and I'm happy to announce that on Wednesday night, November 14th, we will have the kickoff for the strategic planning for the Borough of Milltown. I'm going to encourage as many people as possible to come, and to do that, I will have food and drinks here for everyone. Yes, that's usually a good way to get people in. But we really like to just have this opening meeting be for people to come in and any concerns that you have, whether it be revitalization, infrastructure, water, anything that you have an issue up, this is the time to come. It's not a formal meeting. It's to go over all of our issues that we have now as Milltown residents, and then we will proceed to split up into different committees and figure out, okay, maybe we'll pick certain ones that we can really focus on. So we'll look at the first meeting where we are now, and then also look at where we want to be 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the road so that we can start making a plan. But so I'll have some stuff printed up for everyone to sort of lead us in that direction. But really, it won't work without input from the public. So I encourage everyone to come. So it's Wednesday, November 14th, right here at 7 p.m. Thank you.
Now,
Mr. Bruder.
Lou, weren't you tasked with something earlier today that you told us about with long-term planning?
Master plan.
No,
Master
it's,
plan.
Ford Ave.
Master plan.
It's elements of the master plan.
Any overlap in that to help Trina out or anything like that?
No.
No?
I think it's,
Well, the master plan must include stormwater improvements and sewage, right? Sewage flow?
The utility element wouldn't deal with stormwater, would deal with other utilities. So, well, they're kind of parallel, I think, parallel efforts, but there might be some overlap.
yeah, well, yeah, once we get into the nuts and bolts of it, there might be some. But this is just, you know, to get the input from the public as to what are the big issues that need to be planned for the future.
I have a question for Mr. Bruder. I'd like to attend the November 14th meeting, and I'm sure other members of council would too, as we are discussing public business, more or less, pertaining to the borough, and you'd have most likely more than 3 elected officials. Is that something that we would have to advertise as an open public meeting?
Yes.
Not necessarily formal, but at least that we would be there and people will be discussing things?
The sunshine law does apply. If it's open to all the members, the criteria are if it's open to all the members of the governing body, if it's anticipated that more than a majority would attend, in other words, more than 3 council members, then you do have to comply with the Open Public Meetings Act. There would have to be notice, and the meeting would have to otherwise be conducted in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act.
So statement at the beginning, would we need roll call and things like that? Would you need all the
Well,
formalities? I'm just,
Councilman, I believe that this was under the Finance, Administration, and Planning. So that was what the mayor and I had discussed, that the planning committee would be the first ones to kick it off. So you're on that committee, so it could be the committee that's starting the kickoff meeting.
I'm just thinking it might behoove us to put it out there for public notice so that if anyone else does want to attend from the governing body, we don't have any sort of conflict where people say, no, I came first, you have to stay outside or something.
Yeah, if you're having more than 3 council members in attendance and you're discussing the business of the governing body or any aspect thereof, then the Open Public Meetings Act does come into play.
The conflict, though, is that is the week of the league conference, so many of us will not be. I will be there at league, so I'll be in Lake City and unable to.
Yeah, that's the league's.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go to the league on Tuesday, so I'll be back on Wednesday.
I will not.
Yeah. You'll be at the CME party, right?
That goes all week.
Yeah,
Well,
so,
I guess, does anyone else plan on attending?
Well, we could rock, paper, scissors it.
No, I'm just asking, because if anyone else here does, then we should probably just put the meeting notice out there so that we're covered. If there's
I'll be back.
if everyone else says,
You
no,
have
it's
the
just
time.
gonna be Trina and myself. then
Well, I
we're
thought
covered.
this was a committee
Have in the sense of,
the
can you
rest,
have a public meeting without professionals? That's what I'm concerned
this
about.
is-
And
this will
November
just
14th
be-
it's the league conference,
So
which is why we won't be in town. Most of your, I, as a clerk, will not be.
yeah, it'll
here.
just be the committee meeting. And if Ron's
So we're
going
gonna
to be
have a
at league, then
planning- okay.
Dorian can come.
Okay, yeah. Because I already have ideas.
So we
and
will make
things I've
sure,
discussed
and if
with
if Nick or Randy wander in, we'll kick them out.
That's how you want to play it, that's fine.
Or we'll
I just don't want to
alternate it.
exclude anyone, is all, you
I'll
know.
step out and Nick and we can swap in. So we only have 3.
You have to be careful about
No,
it.
I'm kidding,
Oh,
I'm
okay.
kidding.
Just saying, I just have to say that out loud because you said it. I heard.
There's actually comic
I
doing that to circumvent that you can't quite do it.
As far as they know.
So perhaps we should reschedule to the following week?
No, because then we're getting into Thanksgiving.
Forget Thanksgiving.
The room was, it's not easy to get this room, so that was one of the very, very few nights that we could do it, so we're sticking to the 14th. And mainly, as long as the public shows up, that's the most important thing.
And that we don't.
There's no other old business? Close old business, move on to new business. Does any member of the council have any new business to bring before the council? Seeing none, we'll move on to audience comments. Public comment portion of our meeting is to allow the public to bring to the council's attention their concerns or comments. The council will respect the public's time by refraining any comment until the speaker has finished. It should be further noted that the public comment portion of our meeting is not structured as a question and answer session. If a member of the public has questions they seek answers to, an appointment can be made with the appropriate office during regular business hours or the member of council during their allotted office meeting hours. Please state your name and address for the record when you come to the podium. With that, we'll open up audience comments.
Company at the podium. That's an odd one. Good evening. I'm Heidi and David Correnti, 63 Pershing Avenue. Just want to preface my comments by saying I'm a lifelong Milltonian, or Millbilly, whichever you prefer. I'm here today to share with you the check we just wrote to the Milltown Borough Water Department. For 3 months of water usage, we paid $1,116. We do not have a pool. We do have a sprinkler system because my husband and I take pride in the way our house looks in the summertime. We like green grass. We like flowers. We plant a vegetable garden. And having lived here my whole life, I take pride in what my street looks like. So with that, I'm presenting a challenge to the council this evening to troubleshoot my $1,116 bill and to please think outside the box because I don't fit into the grants that the Councilwoman Kerber was talking about. I'm not elderly, I'm not low income. I am a middle income family. We have 2 children in college. One's in grad school, one's just a recent graduate. He's finding his way. We buy bottled water because we don't drink Milltown water. We sprinkle our grass when it doesn't rain outside. I cannot survive in this town paying over $1,000 for 3 months of water. We generally take on that we're going to spend more in the summer months because we like the green grass and the pretty flowers and the great New Jersey tomatoes. When we saw that bill, my heart sank because my only option is to stop sprinkling my grass and have it brown and disgusting and lower my property value. It's bad enough I had to live next to the burnt down house for 2 years. I don't know where to go with this. I don't know how to get past this $1,000 bill. I talk to people outside our community. They pay maybe $100 a month for their water. Like I said, with 3 adults living in a house, we know not to run the faucet while we're brushing our teeth. I don't want to leave urine in my toilet to mellow because that's what's been suggested to me. I don't want to put a rain barrel in my yard to collect rainwater to water my flowers. We both work full-time jobs. My husband works 24/7. He owns his own business. I have a full-time job. I need your help to help me stay in this town because there are people I grew up with who no longer live here because we can't afford it. And I don't know how a 30% increase was even legal, for lack of better terminology.
Just to let you know, it was double from last year. We paid $550 and it wound up $1,100. And this summer we had a lot of rain and the sprinklers were off.
Yeah.
So, it was ridiculous. And you added a 4th tier on the water bill also, on the payment. I got the old and the new. And I actually checked my bill, what I used this past summer, old rates to new rates. The sewer was 47% of an increase when I did my numbers. That's ridiculous. I mean, I'm in a business and I can't do this to my customers because I wouldn't have a job. And that's all I got to say.
So please help us. We need your help. That's all that I'm asking from the council, is to think outside the box. Maybe instead of a 3-month water meter reading in the summer, do it once a month so we don't get past that 4th tier. I mean, $16.84 for 1,000 gallons of water, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money for us to absorb, because my last pay raise, my increase was $12 a month. So I don't know how to help myself other than get a part-time job. But thank you for your time, I appreciate it.
Any other audience comment? Yes, ma'am.
Jackie Revelinsky, 32 Elm Place. I've had an ongoing issue with my neighbor in back of me, 133 North Main. There is bamboo that has been growing there for the past 3 owners, and I can no longer maintain the shoots that grow into my yard. I'm asking that the council consider an ordinance about bamboo in town. Nobody gets grandfathered in. The people that have it, they have to remove it by the roots. You can't mow it. You can't drown it. You can't use any kind of vegetation killer on it. It's all a temporary measure. I spend my weekends trying to cut off the roots that grow into my yard. I've had to spend over $1,400 to remove trees in my property because of the overgrowth in the neighbor's property. Wild vines that have choked my trees have eliminated most of the sunlight that I have along the back perimeter of my house. So with that, I took that all out. 2 years ago, I planted some other things that would be small and evergreen along my fence line. Last year, because I had foot surgery, I couldn't continue to maintain the bamboo, and it is just trailing all over. I need your help with passing an ordinance about bamboo in town. It's extremely invasive. I've been to Rutgers over the years. I know what needs to be done, and you have to take it out by the roots. And with that, because the property, and I've written the owner, trying to work with him. I've been to Mr. Marcinsick. Just recently have they started to take their garbage out. Until then, it's been accumulating in the back. There are raccoons that are living up by it, that some of the residents that live there don't want to put their garbage out into the garbage cans because there is no dumpster, nor are there assigned garbage cans for each apartment that is in that building, that nobody wants to even take the garbage out because of the raccoons. So maybe if we get rid of the bamboo, I might get rid of a couple other issues too. So please do something about bamboo. Thank you.
Mrs. Revelinsky, you contacted Mr. Marcinzak?
Yep.
And what happened?
I don't know.
So that probably is nothing, pretty much. Why don't you try to call the Middlesex County Department of Health and see if there's something they can do, because basically everything that you said, that's a cost of quality of life issues that you're having.
So is the bamboo.
Right.
I mean, I'm spending my family time maintaining somebody else's property all the time.
Do you want to you want to come back? I have one other thing. If I'm not mistaken, I think that there is already an ordinance that says if you're going to plant bamboo, you have to put in a thing called deep root.
Right, I know.
And I will bet that they did not put in deep root.
I don't know where it came from. I mean, I try and be understanding with the current property owner because he inherited it. It was the property owner before that and the property owner before that. I can't keep maintaining it. I just can't.
And you shouldn't have to.
I shouldn't. That's my quality of life and my time,
Agreed.
my expense, everything. I can't do it anymore, physically. And I can't afford to hire somebody to take care of it, especially because it's not, I'm getting the residual shoots growing up.
Sure, no, I understand.
So-
If Mr. Marcinzak can't help you, try the Middlesex County Department of Health. See if they can do something for you. And maybe someone else on the council can reach out to Mr. Marcinzak and get him to do his job.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comment? Yes, sir.
Hi, my name's Tony Nastis, and I'm not related to the Nastis brothers. The reason I'm here tonight is
Address.
I'm tired of coming here.
Your address, sir.
Pardon me?
Name and address. You said your name, I need address.
Well, you got my name. I live on Bergen Avenue in North Brunswick.
Thank you.
I've been here 3 times trying to get some resolution on West Lawrence and 368 Main Street. I think Mr. Dixon's well aware of the problem there.
Yep.
The site triangle does not exist. The shrubbery, as I gave you pictures, is blocking the view of oncoming traffic. You come out of there, someone's going to get hit. And if you get hit, you're going to get hurt. And if you're lucky enough just to get hurt and not get killed, you're ahead of the game. But I don't know who owns the house. I don't know what the game plan is. I spoke to the code enforcement guy a couple times, and I got BS. So now I'm bringing it to your attention. I spoke to the young man over here who told me it's not a township problem, it's a homeowner's problem. But I need someone to do something before someone gets killed or hurt.
What I said is not that it's not a township problem, but that if you're talking about something on private property.
Yes, it's private property. I understand what you're saying. I'm just bringing it to the town's attention because they could send someone over there to notify the homeowner, your property maintenance needs to be addressed, and you have to cut down the trees or the shrubbery or whatever. Some of the shrubbery is on the sidewalk. Some of it's so high you can't see the oncoming traffic. So, you know, it's not that, I'm not blaming anybody. I think someone should get together, either notify the homeowner to either start maintaining his property or issue him a code violation for not maintaining his property before somebody gets hurt. I was going to bring you more pictures, but you already have a stack from my last meeting, which is a couple of months ago. And this is like the 3rd or 4th year I've been here with trying to address this thing, but I have friends and relatives that live down the street, so I'm always there.
Yeah, I remember when you were here 2 months ago, and the mayor said he was going to have it taken care of the next day.
And I believe the code enforcement officer went there, instructed them to take care of it. It was cut down to 3 feet high, which is what they have to cut it down to. But I understand what he's saying. It grows back. It's every time it grows over 3 feet, you got to go back and tell the guy again.
Well, I was under the impression from the code enforcement guy that someone was supposed to address this problem on a weekly or monthly basis, bi-weekly basis. I don't know what arrangements, but he told me arrangements have been made. And I don't know whether he gave the guy the right address or the wrong address,
right.
But there's been no maintenance, and if you want a chalk line, I'll give you a chalk line to measure the site triangle. The police department usually has the ability to do that.
I will check tomorrow to make sure the code enforcement officer knows again it's growing again, it's back to again it is, and see what we can or cannot do. Issue summonses.
That doesn't mean I have to come back, does it?
I couldn't tell you. I hope not.
Part of the problem is that you issue a summons, they have a certain amount of time to abate the situation. So if they abate the situation in that time frame, and then it winds up growing back, it's a new summons. It's not an extension or continuation of the original one. So you start to lose a little bit of ground. He cuts it down, he brings pictures to the judge and says, look, I cut it down to 3 feet, it's legal. Okay, summons removed. 3 months later, 2 months later, with the amount of rain we've had, it's back up to here. Now you gotta go out again and summons him again. So without having the code enforcement official here or a copy of the summonses he's written, I wouldn't be able to say whether or not he's been addressing the issue. But I know it has been cut down in the past, but you're right, it's probably time that they get cut down again, and hopefully this time the property owner will say it's not worth trimming
How
them.
often do you cut
Let
your
me
grass?
just remove them.
How often do you cut your
I
grass?
cut my grass once a week, but I trim my hedges twice a year. And these are hedges, right?
These aren't hedges.
I know.
These are the hedges
I've
along
been
the
out
wall,
there, I know.
aren't they?
This young man knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Good argument, but you go before a judge a couple of times, and what does he do to you? He gets tired of seeing you there, just like you're tired of seeing me here.
All right, I will address it tomorrow with the code enforcement officer. I'll make sure he gets out there again.
See you in January.
Okay.
You want pictures?
Well, like I said, I'll see the code enforcement officer tomorrow.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, sir. Anyone else?
Phil Zambrana, 40 Van Loo Avenue. I just wanted to understand the ordinance that was passed tonight, the first one on the agenda, 181465, where it says it's appropriating $125,000 from the reserve for electric system capital improvements. Is that where the PSE&G money is?
Randy,
Yeah.
what-
Yes, it is.
Okay, great. So, that takes care of one of my questions. So is there a protocol? I know this is gonna go out to bid to get the best bang for your buck regarding the number of trees that are gonna be taken down, but what's the protocol on what trees come down? Are you going oldest trees on the list, most hazardous trees in the list? What is that protocol?
Currently, definitely the dead trees, without a doubt. And then we're gonna look at the rest, the most dangerous, of course, as well.
Oldest trees on the list?
Of course.
You got
Mo-
trees
most
out
of them
there
are-
that,
yes.
there are trees on the list that go back to 2004.
2006, as far as I know. But there was one that was listed as 2004, but I spoke to that gentleman, he's like, oh, no, that was a different tree. I
So
didn't realize
there's an
that, the
updated
one
list then?
comment.
There's an updated list?
I'm working with Ralph because he's taken some trees by himself to do some, to reduce this list. So I have to touch base with him, and I'll be doing that Thursday to follow up with which ones he took down. And I know a lot of people are hiring tree services throughout the town, either for pruning or for removal. So I'll be going around town to, see which addresses.
So how does
they are.
one know, as a taxpayer, what the $125,000 is actually being spent on, if the list keeps changing?
Oh, it's an ongoing updated list. You can't help that.
Okay, so.
I haven't had any new requests since 3 weeks ago.
So you've already
for applications.
begun to remove trees?
Well, the Public Works has done some small trees, correct.
Okay,
And some hazardous that basically with the weather.
okay,
So if a couple branches came down, you just remove the whole tree.
okay.
And some of those were pretty dead trees, so.
Do you have an estimate of how many trees you can probably get out of the 125?
No, I am not an expert
get the
on
bid.
that. When we get the bids open next week, we will.
Okay, and so that'll be available for the next council meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
And what's great, this is a great time because
Yeah.
you're going to get more for your, being
Right.
the winter months, this is our slow time. We'll be able to get more accomplished.
Okay,
Well, wait, we're not gonna have the exact list of specifically what trees will be taken down by next meeting.
No.
We'll have the budgetary pricing that was provided in the bid, and we have to compare that to the state contract to see which diameters, what sizes, which location are worth us using these funds to go with the bid or with the state contract, or perhaps doing it in-house, so.
so when do you
it goes
think,
back to,
I know you have all these things that are moving,
yeah, it's
but
very-
when do you think that, the majority of the trees, whether it's 50 trees, 100 trees, there's 227 trees on the list.
Now, you also have to have the staff look at it and review it too, and
Well,
so that's what we're doing.
Here's my
I mean,
point.
I don't want to rush on it either. I want to
I
make sure we do it the most
I
economic.
I understand, but you've been sitting on this money for a year already. So is it gonna take another 6 months to take care of these trees and these sidewalks?
We're gonna be taking care of the trees that serve the most detriment to the borough. So safety first.
Right,
Dead, limbs hanging, things like that. If in the process another tree comes down, or the borough, or DPW happens to say, look, we're taking down two trees right here, this one's on the list, it's not as bad as the others, but we're here and we can get it done in a day,
And this is
we're
only-
gonna take that down. So it's constantly changing. I mean, we'll know.
This is only trees, this isn't sidewalks, right? Repairing of sidewalks,
We're
right?
not- we're
Right,
not-
okay,
According to ordinance, sidewalk
Right.
and curb is the responsibility of the property owner.
okay. So you would think by perhaps the end of the year, maybe January, the majority of these trees, or like a good amount of these trees would be taken care of?
We would have to review the bid, award the contract, then get the contractor out there to start taking those down. If we get hit with a nor'easter and that contractor can't come out for a week because he's taking down other trees, it's however
Right.
much he gets through until the money's gone.
Right.
That's the point, is we're setting aside $125,000 here to spend on tree removal. So until that 125 is spent, the project's not done. How long it's gonna take to get all those done, we'll keep moving forward as time allows and availability allows, but we're not gonna take, the foot off the gas and just wait at the stoplight.
How did we arrive at the 125,000?
It's a good starting point.
Good starting point, okay. So out of the PSE&G money, we've got a bucket truck that's gone, we've got $76,000 or so. You got $125,000 for trees, so you've got $200,000 from 454, you've got about $254 left. Any plans on what the rest of that money's gonna go for?
There was some other expenditures in there as well that you're missing. We had a FLIR camera so they can evaluate the transformers better, that was $14,000.
No, that wasn't on the list that I received from the borough clerk.
So we've spent money on 2 trucks and this money that was just appropriated tonight.
And the $14,000 from the camera too. That was spent back in, I wanna say February.
That wasn't on the list.
That
It wasn't on the
yeah,
list.
That money.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll look into that one then too. But yeah, whatever's money is left, we're gonna focus on spending it to.
So you think this money will be spent by the end of the next fiscal year? Hard to say.
Hard to say. We'll see what comes up. We might need it for utility poles that break or other things that come up as well.
Thanks.
So just to be clear, though, I thought we said at the last meeting that we were just going to start at from the oldest tree, oldest on the list, and work our way up, assuming that there's no emergency that a tree comes down or anything.
Well,
Wasn't that the expectation?
2 meetings ago, we said not the exact opposite, but we said we're gonna take care of the ones that serve the most danger to the borough, and then we'll start with the oldest ones. Now, if there's one on the list from 2006 that is a perfectly healthy tree, but there's one on there from 2012 that is half-dead, we're gonna take the half-dead one down, because that serves the most severe to the borough. The same thing, if its sidewalk is lifted up tremendously, we have to look at that, not take down just a healthy tree because someone put it on the list all these years ago. We have to be cautious about what we're spending the money on and make sure that it's getting the most improvement to the borough, and not just the individual residents.
But you triaged that, right, Councilwoman Kerber? The list that we had all of, the most of the older ones were dead anyway, right?
At least half are dead, yes.
Okay. So to be fair, it would be good to, if it's dead and it's been on the list since 2006, that one should be one of the first ones to go.
Well, with that caveat, I would say that we're gonna make the most economic, feasible, systematical approach to taking these trees down. I'm not gonna send a crew of guys to one tree on one side of the town and then go to the other side of town and so forth, because that would be.
No, we
talked
talked about that. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, Milltown has the 4 quadrants, so they're
Right.
working on the southeast side, then the southwest side. I mean, we're not gonna have them traipsing all over the place, but,
Correct.
It's the sort of trying to follow the timeline of the list, not making it totally arbitrary.
We're gonna hit all the quarters of the town.
Right.
We're not gonna go to one quarter and then go on to another one.
Yeah,
So,
that's understood.
It's gonna be spread out through the town systematically and logically.
Right, but I was trying to say that, we wouldn't go, okay, you're, on the first one on the list because you've been there since 2006, then you don't have to go across town and do the next one up. However, we should try and address as many of those people that have been extremely patient
Yes.
and waiting their turn and, hoping that the borough will come in and do what they're supposed to do and do it as quickly as possible.
Correct, absolutely.
Now, can I ask, with our new website, this is obviously a little bit down the road. We're still in the infant stages of it, if you want to call it that. but with our new website, could we post each week what trees are scheduled so that residents will know what's coming their way?
Ralph would have the ability to do that.
I
Yes.
think that's
We
a,
we actually plan on doing both. We plan on notifying, leaving notes in mailboxes of the residents that we plan on doing the following week, and we'll put it up on the website.
Good.
More information out there, the better.
perfect, thank you.
Because we do want cars moved. We don't want to cut trees down on cars.
See no other audience comments? Oh,
Might be fun.
Carolyn Viola, 17 DeBonis Drive. I had a question about 18277, the posting policy, and if that also, you talked about mostly social media and then YouTube comments, but does that also encompass Milltown 15, the live feed from Milltown 15?
The channel is included in the posting policy. It's also under the ordinance and has restrictions under the ordinance.
Okay. So I guess, because my question is, if this was just passed today, what was the resolution or ordinance or ruling on the books that prohibited the public forum from being broadcast live?
That was statute. That was under the elect statute per our attorney.
Can you describe the statute?
NJAC 19?
Well, New Jersey local election laws pertain to the political or partisan activities. The 90-day rule is another one that touches upon it. So I don't have the specifics in front of me, but that was advice I offered to the governing body.
What's the 90-day rule?
90-day rule is under the local election law that pertains to the reporting of contributions that are made, and to use municipal equipment would be called an in-kind contribution. So it then invokes the 90-day rule, and that's where we got into that. I discussed it with Councilman Ligotti.
But wouldn't that only pertain if it was sponsored by a particular party? This was an open public forum that both parties were equally invited to participate. One decided not to, so how is that partisan?
Well, I'm not going to offer legal opinions to you respectfully. I would offer it to the governing body.
So I will say that I am the liaison to the Channel 15, and I received absolutely no inquiries, no concerns, no questions, nothing prior to the forum. So it wasn't a question of, can we have it? People aren't showing up. I have heard nothing about it until that day when, and I was away, but I heard that, people didn't show up. So I wasn't aware, I wasn't, privy to the conversations with Mr. Bruder or anything, and I am the liaison to the Channel 15.
Mr. Bruder and I had a conversation about it. I was under a different opinion than he was, but, we spoke to each other. It's some ELAC laws, and as far as I'm concerned, ELAC laws probably don't have any jurisdiction for the Milltown website. If someone sees a violation in an ELAC law, they can file an ELAC violation with the ELAC board. So why the borough decided not to have them broadcast it was the conversation that we had. I was not under the same opinion, but, I had to defer to his opinion on what he gave me. But that would be my question is, ELAC is totally different. It should have no bearing in here. If a particular party wants to file a violation with the ELAC board, they can do that. They have every right to do that.
Right. I mean, I think it was a disservice to the town to not do that. I think if either party or one individual chose not to show up, the onus is on them to not participate in a public forum where you're getting information out on your candidacy and what you're going to do for this town. But to not televise it was simply a disservice to the town. It ultimately got out to the public, which it always does. But I think it's unfortunate that that decision was made by part of the governing body and prohibiting information getting out to the voting public, which is the key thing here, the voting, tax-paying public who have the right to that information. Thank you.
But I just might follow up because, as I said, I am the liaison and part of the governing body. How did we decide that?
How did we decide what?
That we weren't going to televise it. I received no email, no phone call, not whose decision was it that we weren't going to televise it. I'm a liaison to the television station, and I did not. So how did the governing? You said the governing body decided.
No.
I didn't.
No, I didn't say the
We
governing
didn't.
body decided. That was not expression.
Well, then who made the decision not to televise it?
I was contacted by the borough clerk and borough administrator with a concern that had been raised with respect to utilization of borough equipment. I researched it, and then I reached out, not knowing who to speak to, and I apologize, I didn't know you were...
Who brought the concerns to you?
Different, two members of the public. It was members of the Republican committee had brought it to our attention.
So they have every right to file an ELAC violation that shouldn't be anything
No,
to do with
I believe the question that came into play, where Mr. Brutus calling a 90-day rule came into play, where we were doing an in-kind donation since it became a one-party forum because of the lack of another party showing up, that the council would have to approve any kind of donations that would occur, and you did not do that.
And that happened the day of?
I think the day before, like late afternoon, the day before.
Yeah, but you're saying it's an in-kind and lack of, both parties were invited. If one chooses not to attend, that doesn't qualify for an in-kind contribution. They were invited, they could have showed up at any given time. Again, it's an ELAC question, should have had nothing, absolutely nothing to do with this borough.
And so, Councilwoman Mayor, I was not aware of your role or responsibility with Channel 15. I just know that we have a borough TV station, and not knowing who to speak to, I reached out, spoke to Councilman Ligotti, and we spoke at length, and I discussed my...
Was that before or after?
That was the day of. That's when I was contacted that
An
morning.
hour before.
And I was contacted that morning, and so I spent some time researching it and spoke to Mr. Ligotti that afternoon, or that evening.
Did anybody speak to the station manager, since he knows more about it than anybody else?
I mean, it's clear as day. Everything that was said here makes it clear as day. People at home know what went on. Everybody's aware of it. It can be spun however you want, but everybody knows why it happened. Thank you.
I would disagree with that statement respectfully.
No other comments, audience comments? If not, we'll move on. Council comments. Any member of council have anything to say?
Yes, Mr. Council President, I'd like to address the young lady who came up earlier, and I will call her young because otherwise I'll probably never get a homemade meal again. Mom, when it comes to the bamboo, I think I grew up with this issue in the backyard, and it wasn't just her that was pulling out those roots year after year. It was also myself and my brother. It is an issue. I actually tried to deter a neighbor of mine from planting bamboo due to the Turnpike property, because I know what happens is once it starts growing, it just takes off. Those shoots go underneath the fence. They pop up in the middle of the yard, and you're ripping out roots through your newly planted sod. I don't know what we can do, and I'll direct this towards our borough attorney in regards to grandfathered, where people have planted it years ago and it's still growing, what we can do to abate it, because, quite frankly, anything other than ripping out every root just doesn't remove it. So I'm going to ask if you could look into that.
When the young lady spoke earlier, I noticed the same name, last name. I did look into that. I'm interested to speak to Councilman Farkas afterwards about deep root, because I'm not familiar with that. But what I did see in quickly looking it up this evening is that there are a handful of municipalities in New Jersey that have passed some form of ordinance regulating bamboo, so I'd be glad to take a look into what some of those ideas are, so that we're not reinventing the wheel, and perhaps there is something that can be done to address the situation.
I know we could pass something to prohibit planting of bamboo, you know, directly into the ground, but it's the grandfather question is what can you do to force someone to remove the situation that's been existing for so long?
Yeah, so that's something that we would have to look into.
Thank you. And my other comment is for the folks who, thank you for still waiting around. I just didn't want to interrupt you guys while you were speaking. Please talk to me afterwards. I'd like to look at your bill and compare your usage to last year as well, because that's one of the issues that we've found with some residents who have much higher than anticipated is their usage this year was higher than it was last year, so that coupled with the rate increases led to something they really truly didn't expect. So.
But can we look into that monthly billing in the summer?
That is, and you know, thank you for saying that. It's actually something that, if you recall, about almost a year ago now, I had a company in here talking about smart metering. And smart metering being either a drive-by system or sit at Borough Hall, press a button, and everyone gets a reading immediately. You'd be able to log online, see what your usage is, set yourself alerts that, oops, I've hit, you know, more than I really wanted to use this month. I better start toning it down a little bit. It went nowhere because of the cost. Right now we were looking at it, and I did a rough high dollar estimate, assuming the most costly borough employee doing the installations, and it was around $2 million for both electric and water. And the reason I bring that up is because in order to bill monthly, right now what we do is we do 1/3 of the town every month. So over the 3-month period, it's a very costly endeavor to try and bill monthly.
We're at a disadvantage. I'm sorry, I know I'm speaking out of turn, but we're at a disadvantage because
Can you just come to the microphone, because otherwise it doesn't pick up, sorry.
We're at a disadvantage because our highest water usage is in the summer, and that's rather than it being billed in the summertime when our highest water usage is, where people who have pools or read at a different time, because we get our bill in September and people are just getting their 3-month water bill in October. So I'm thinking their water bill is read differently.
No, the billing at the new rate started in April. So you're actually, if you received your bill in October.
No, September, right?
Okay, September. So the people who were billed in August got billed at the new rate. So that would be all of your July usage. You know, they take the reading at the end of July, so all those folks. The people who got billed in July, their bill is coming this month in October for some of that July usage, if that makes sense, because you.
Right, no, yeah, I understand what you're saying, yes.
Everyone is getting billed for the same time period, so everyone in town is going to be billed for the summer months of water usage, water allowance. It's not like we picked your neighborhood and said, oh, well, you guys pay for 6 months at the new rate and someone else pays for 5.
You know, my dad did the reader meetings in this town for decades, and he used to walk this whole town sometimes twice in 1 month. So I know that in years past, the meters were read all at the same time. I didn't know if that was still the case.
Electric is monthly.
Right.
The water is done quarterly, and that's the way most towns do it. Now, we could easily evaluate a situation right now. Our low end is 7,500 gallons per quarter. We could do that to 2,500 gallons per month, but I know I'm going to have just as many residents come down and say, I don't use 2,500 gallons a month.
Had people come that it's much more than a 30% increase, and obviously we're going to have to address that, and we can't, you know, I thank you for coming and I thank the other people for coming, but what about all the people that are home that we don't know about, you know, and that's why we, you know, encourage people to come to the meeting, but still you shouldn't have to, or you shouldn't have to meet with Councilman Revelinsky to dive into your bill to see what's going on. You know, we have issues that we've addressed, and one of which that I liked was the meter that you could actually get the readout and know what to expect. But we had to make the decision in the Finance Committee that we couldn't add that on, a charge for that on top of already increasing your water rates. So the fact that we haven't planned accordingly to have not have a fund shortfall and have to do this increase keeps us from doing things that could help people. And if you'll notice, a lot of these issues that come up are quality of life issues. We want to have nice grass, to be able to do what we want, to not have to pull weeds every weekend. And it's up to us to make sure that we have a infrastructure and a sound plan to be able to give that water to you, clean water at an affordable price, and have code enforcement that'll deal with the corner not being, you can't see when you turn out of the corner, or you have, weeds growing in your yard. So it's something that we have to be a little more stringent about to make sure that all of these quality of life issues that just chip away. And that's why, we appreciate when people come down, but not everybody is here, so I don't even think we have, a percentage of all of the issues that people are having with this increase and a bunch of other things. So, it's something that we're obviously going to have to address. I know we're coming to the end of the year with a new budget, and believe me, I'm not going to rest until we get some answers for this, because we can't just say, sorry, that's just how it's going to be. Tough. We really have to address it.
I'd like to make one more add, and I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Special thanks to everyone in our tax collector and utility billing department, because while there's not a lot of folks down here, every day people are coming in for the explanation. I'm sure you guys got an earful about how and why and the calculation and how it's performed, and they're doing a bang-up job making sure people understand their bill. And there's also a form there that if you fill it out and you still don't understand or get it or have a concern, we can look into doing a reread, make sure that it wasn't read incorrectly or there was no error in transposing the numbers. We could do a flow test on your meter to make sure that it's reading properly and not reading. Typically, they always read too low, never read too high. But all those things that if you fill out the form, it gets more of the ball rolling than just, kind of a squeaky wheel, my bill's high. So, but we'll talk afterwards. And
no other council comments. We'll move on to mayor's comments. And the only comment I have is that earlier this evening, I was approached by our legal counsel who asked if we could go into a 5-minute executive session. I think all council people agreed to that.
I have to read it.
You have to read it, but I'll just explain to everybody why it's not on the agenda.
Happy.
We were just asked this evening.
All right.
He loves reading the motion. It's really
Councilman Gotti, would you please?
small thing.
Okay. I move that Borough Council enter into executive session to be approved by council, and that council will enter executive session immediately following the vacation of council chambers by the public. So,
thank you.
Oh, I second.
With that, we'll take a very brief recess. Just go right into executive session.
Aye, right?
Aye.